Good afternoon, friends. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive, and welcome to the county's Ridge Road Park here in Hartsdale in the town of Greenburgh. We're here to unveil a new portion of this park, which is home for so many other important activities. Here we are now at the Healing Garden, which we'll talk about with some of our speakers and some of the individuals who are here to share what this is and why this is now an important part of our experience here in Westchester County. I'd like to begin with an opening prayer and reflection by our good friend, the Reverend Erwin Lee Trollinger, who's the pastor of Calvary Baptist Church in White Plains and a prominent clergyman in this county who we rely on for that connection to the spiritual. Reverend Trollinger.
Good afternoon, everyone. As we pause for a second to bow our heads, please join with me with a rewrite of St. Francis's prayer in regard to this moment that we are in. Lord, make us an instrument of your peace. Where there has been depression, let us bring some hope. Where there has been injury, let us be able to give some faith. Where there has been some doubt, let us give some faith. And where there has been despair, let us give words of cheer. We pray, Father, that we'll be able to dispel the darkness of life situations and challenges, and that through the light and the illumination of our presence and your will, sadness will be turned into joy, and it will flow from heart to heart, no matter what the situation may be. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much again, Reverend Erwin Lee Trollinger, pastor of the Calvary Baptist Church in White Plains. You grace us always with your presence. Let me, as we begin the process of our program here, recognize some individuals who are here. We're joined by the town supervisor of the town of Greenburgh, which is the host community for this park. The Honorable Paul Feiner is with us today. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor, for being here. And in a few moments, we'll hear from one of his colleagues on the Greenburgh Town Board, Councilwoman Ellen Hendricks, who is also part of our executive team and has a very personal connection to this location. Ellen, we appreciate your presence here as well. We also have a prominent member of the town, Bill Greenewalt, who has served in many different public capacities over his public career, and notably on a member of the Parks Board. So many of our parks, Bill has been involved in doing that. Bill, thank you for being with us here today. And there may be other members of the Parks Board as well. I'll let Kathy O'Connor catch me if there are other individuals that we want to recognize. From our executive team, we're joined by Peter McCart, who's our Director of Sustainability, Conservation, and Energy. We have our Director of Program and Policy, Aviva Maya, is with us. You see some of the prominent members of our communications team, Deputy Director of Communications, Carolyn Fortino, John Borst, Tony Fessiano are with us here today. Bill Weitz is with us from our Department of Community and Mental Health. And, of course, the Commissioner of that department, Michael Orth, is going to speak in a few seconds. And, of course, our great Commissioner of Parks and Recreation, Kathy O'Connor, is with us, along with her First Deputy, Peter Tartaglia. And there's 55 parks all across this county. We're at many of them for one reason or another, and they do a fabulous job. She'll introduce members of her team who are here that not only help us create special moments and places like this, but also maintain those parks so that all of us as Westchester residents can enjoy them over the course of the year on a year-round basis. We're here today to unveil a place of contemplation. And certainly Reverend Trollinger is closer to it than any of us who are in a secular mode, because there are things in the practical world that we understand and grasp, whatever our career is, whatever our areas of expertise and professions are. But there are things that go beyond our human understanding, no matter how long we live on the planet, no matter how many different experiences we have. And sometimes, whether we call it prayer or whether we call it contemplation on our own earthly merit, we need to stop and think and try to understand and try to come to as much closure as we can in moments that are basically impossible for us as human beings to deal with. But we still have to deal with the impossible. So we're here today to to dedicate a space that provides that service for all of us, and particularly for those that have suffered as a member of a surviving family, for those that have completed a suicide, which is for some of us impossible to imagine, and for some of us is a part of the life that we have to live with every single day. So let me first ask Michael Lorth, who's our Commissioner of the Department of Community Mental Health. He is an outstanding leader in this field. He has done so many things with the department, and we turn to him routinely in matters like this to help us understand how best to deal with the mental health crisis that we all feel and that we all face. Mr. Commissioner.
Thank you, everyone. Well, thank you all for being here this afternoon. I have the privilege of serving as Commissioner of the Westchester County Department of Community Mental Health, and in my capacity, I also serve as the co-chair of our Westchester County Suicide Prevention Task Force. I'd like to acknowledge Dr. Barbara Bernstein, who's been our co-chair of the task force since 2015, who's here with us today as well. I also like to take this opportunity to recognize May as Mental Health Awareness Month, and I hope you will all join in some of the activities, events, and forums that are going on throughout Westchester for the month of May. Our journey, which brings us here today, began in September 2021 as part of our national suicide prevention awareness efforts. Under the leadership of County Executive Latimer, a planning committee was created in September of 2021, consisting of many county partners, experts in the field, and most importantly, survivors and family members who have lost a loved one by suicide. The charge of our county executive was to make recommendations for a site in our county that would provide healing and comfort for family members and friends who've lost a loved one by suicide. Today is a result of their efforts. I'd like to acknowledge the task force that has worked diligently since that time to help establish the garden. Barbara Bernstein, Marie Considine, who you'll hear from later, Jill Costa from the Department of Community Mental Health, Laura Davis, a family member, Dawn Yancey Ellaby, a family member who will be speaking later as well, Lucille Roy Iteri, a family member, Sylvia Gelati from the New York State Office of Mental Health, of course Ellen Hendricks, family member from the Westchester County Executive's Office, Maria Iadoni from American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, Aviva Meyer from the County Executive's Office, great leadership of Commissioner Connor, Parks and Recreation, and myself. This group had many meetings. We visited the site. Thanks to Commissioner Connor, we looked at other sites around the county, and it led us here to this special place. I'd like to especially acknowledge also Roy and Lucille Iteri, who Lucille is here, who really provided the inspiration around the creation of a garden. They led the effort in Putnam County in memory of their daughter Nicole to create a memorial site. So she planted the seed for Westchester to really take on this endeavor and have our own site in Westchester County to reflect. I'd also like to thank the Westchester County Suicide Prevention Task Force, which started in 2015, and many of the members are present today. NAMI Westchester and Executive Marie Considine had a leadership role in fundraising and planning. And I might also add that we're still collecting dollars to expand our garden as well. And also the generous donation of Westchester Parks Foundation under the Executive Director, Joseph Stout. And finally, the professionalism, dedication, and effort of our Westchester County Parks under the leadership of Commissioner Connor and Deputy Commissioner Tartaglia. The design here was initially led by Ken Ewell, who has since retired, and passed on to the capable hands of Chelsea. I had the honor of meeting many of the staff, including Omar, who helped with the staff to move many of those rocks to place the wonderful stone barrier that you see there, and many other folks who created the garden that we envisioned. I also want to acknowledge Brandon, who's in the back, an Eagle Scout, for building the benches, and his family's here as well. Thank you for your work and your wonderful contribution. Thank you, Brandon. Sadly, since the creation of the Healing Garden Planning Committee September 21st to April 2023, we have lost over 115 residents by suicide in our county. That's 115 fathers, mothers, sons, daughters, grandparents, spouses, colleagues, and friends. They represent all walks of life, race, culture, gender, age, profession, and students. Our vision for the Healing Garden was to create a special place for family members, friends to find peace, comfort, and reflection, to be able to visit whenever they wished, any season, no cost for parking, and easy transportation. I think thanks to these people, we have met our goal. Thank you. The Healing Garden is also an opportunity to build awareness on suicide prevention and mental health resources to support. Proudly, under the task force, we've really created some special suicide prevention efforts. This morning alone, there were 150 police officers that we trained on suicide prevention and resilience, and it was thanks to Lucille and others that provided this training that's well needed. Thanks to Reverend Trollinger and Pat White, who's in the audience, we have a faith-based mental health initiative that reaches out to the credible messengers in our faith-based community to support, educate, and link with the mental health community. We have a college collaborative. We have some members here who meet monthly with all 12 colleges in Westchester County to do suicide prevention, mental health training, and awareness. We're also proud of our efforts with mental health first aid. This is sort of the CPR of mental health, where we've trained young people, adults, first responders, veterans, seniors, and there's also now mental health in the workplace. We also recently started a Veteran Suicide Prevention Subcommittee recognizing the need for those services. And I also want to thank our county executive. Since day one, he supported, promoted, endorsed mental health services, including our strengthening our 988 National Suicide Prevention Hotline, which we now have here in Westchester County thanks to the county executive and St. Vincent's, and also all the support during the crisis. It's important when we talk about suicide prevention to reach out to all parts of our community, as everyone is impacted. And by promoting our own self-care, wellness, we all have a role in preventing suicide. So thank you all for being here today, the generosity, and thank you to the task force for making this a reality. Thank you.
As Michael Orth, who is our Commissioner of the Department of Community Mental Health, I'd like to recognize some members of the Westchester County Board of Legislators that have joined us here today. Keep in mind, whenever you see an action that is accomplished by the county government, it involves the executive branch and the support of the legislative branch as well. Whether it is in the budget that's passed annually, sometimes there's a bonding act, but the Board of Legislators is a partner in these decisions, and they too take the credit for these moments. So I want to introduce Nancy Barr, who is the Vice Chair of the Board of Legislators. She represents Rybrook, Portchester, and a portion of Harrison. We have Jewel Williams-Johnson, who's a member of the Board of Legislators. She represents Greenburgh, Elmsford, Tarrytown. I know I sound like a Metro North conductor. Sleepy Hollow. And we also have James Nolan, who is with us here, who represents parts of Yonkers and all of Bronxville. We thank them for their presence and their involvement in this, and as other legislators will be joining us, we will recognize them as well. Next, I'd like to recognize Kathy O'Connor, who's our Commissioner of Parks, Recreation, and Conservation. When I came into office a little over 5 years ago, almost 5.5 years ago, people like Michael Orth and Kathy O'Connor were already in positions of authority. And, you know, sometimes you hear about when there's a turnover in administrations, if there's a change in party, it's sort of a change of everything. You want to change everything. And what I saw in Michael Orth and what I saw in Kathy O'Connor and her team were people who were professional regardless of who the senior leadership of the county was. And the senior leadership of the county is determined by the voters, but we should look at the professional accomplishments and try where we can to maintain and expand that professionalism. And that's been proven by the improvements that we have made in county parks all across this county. The restoration of the Sprain Ridge pools back online, the saving of the Miller House Washington headquarters over on Virginia Road, the improvements to the North County Trailway, the South County Trailway, the completion of the Bronx River Pathway, the work that we're doing now at Cranberry Lake, the capital projects that have gone into Playland, even though we're not managing the facility at this stage of the game. All across this county, the leadership of Kathy O'Connor and her team has been on display. So we're very happy to be here to recognize the work that she and her team has done in helping make the Healing Garden from an idea into a reality. Commissioner O'Connor.
Thank you very much, County Executive Latimer. And I've been here a long time, and I have to say it's been an absolute pleasure working under his leadership. He has been a true friend of the Parks, Recreation, and Conservation Department, and we have done more in the last 5.5 years than we did in the last decade. So I really applaud all the efforts that the County Executive and also working with the Board of Legislators who have been super supportive of moving our capital projects under Peter Tartaglia, our first deputy, and we've just done more than we've ever done in many, many years. So thank you. It's my honor to be part of this task force. under the leadership of County Executive Latimer. The team that put this program together is wonderful, and I had the distinct pleasure of being able to do a little bit of a show and tell of our facilities. And there were a lot of other conversations we have. As George said, we have many facilities, but when we came here, we realized there's a serenity here. You're in the heart of Westchester County. There's a lot of action all around us, but when you come here, and now I've been here about 25 times in the last 2 weeks, I calm down. I calm down when I get here. So I can imagine anybody else that comes here. The work that's been done here by what we call our Blitz crew, they're the MASH unit. They're the Rambos. We told them, and they have a lot of other things going on, but this was needed to be done ASAP. And we wanted to be pretty much done by the NAMI annual walk that's now here on Saturday, May 20th. So under the guidance of our Deputy Commissioner, Neil Squilanti, the Blitz crew, and believe me, it's not a crew of 25, it's a crew of 4. And including a female who works as hard as anybody else, they did a phenomenal job. And you can see it behind me. We're so proud of it, and I think it's really important to note this is a work in progress. The money that was raised through NAMI paid for what is here right now. We did add what we call a curtain drain. If you're looking at the gravel, this area is a low-lying area, and with 6 inches of rain 2 weeks ago, a lot would be gone. We had the foresight to dig a 6-foot drain, and it goes that way. And right after we finished the gravel, the 6 inches of rain came over the next 2 days, and everything was intact. So that was a great move on our staff, great insight on how to survive and how to preserve what's here. What you see are just the beginnings. Everything has to grow in. The monument that's in the middle, the big rock, the committee loves the idea of eventually having a plaque placed on that rock. That will be up to the committee to decide what should be said. And over to my left, your right, the signage that's over there, and people have signed things that have walked by, they've made comments, that will eventually be a formal kiosk that will be put together again through the task force, explaining what this garden means and what it means to the people that are helping putting it together. As the money comes in, we will continue to add. This is a living, healing garden. And as I said, it's a place where you can come and sit, and then you can do your workout, or you can do your walk, and then come back and sit. People walk by and had nothing to do with why we're here, and they've asked a lot of questions, so a lot more awareness is coming through. So we're excited to see it come to this point, and we're looking forward to doing even more. I wanted to just comment, the superintendent for this park, Luigi Mazzella, is here. He and his trusty men. Again, these are not big crews of 10, 15 people. It's usually about 4. And he now has yes. And the Blitz crew is Gary Metz, Chelsea King, and Omar Ruida, and a couple of hourly men. And they didn't want to be here because they're out doing similar work someplace else. So, but I told them I'd give them a shout out. Again, thank you. Thank you for all your support. Thank you for working with the task force. We look forward to continuing building and doing. And my last comment is that rock wall that you see, that was a work of, that was magical. That wall went straight back. I thought it curved. I came back 3 weeks ago, and I said, oh, could we curve it? The same 3 or 4 men and women curved it. And that didn't cost anything other than our labor, but that rock wall is here, and we will continue. We had to finish to get ready, but we will continue, and it gave such a beautiful balance. It's nature, and anytime you're here, we're here early in the morning, when the sun comes through the backdrop of those trees, it's really magical. So thank you. We love working with you, and we look forward to doing even more as time goes on. Thank you. I'm sorry. One last mention. I'd be absolutely remiss if I didn't mention the county executive already mentioned Brendan Hanley, his family, an Eagle Scout project. And Brendan, I can tell you, if that committee has any question as to whether or not you should receive that award, have them call me, because he and his father, Michael Hanley, put together, this is a large oak tree that was cut, milled, and they did in Eastchester, in their garage and then their driveway, and that was brought over today. It will be set in cement, but we wanted to just get them in for today. Tomorrow, the cement will be poured, and then it will be officially in that ground. So, Brendan, thank you. We love it. Could you do 4 more for us? Thank you. And congratulations. Our department has been able to do a lot of Eagle Scout projects because mothers would call and say, he's got 4 weeks to complete before he's the right age. And we give them projects. But he did this one on his own. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kathy O'Connor, our Commissioner of Parks, Recreation, and Conservation. Next, we have the Executive Director of NAMI, Marie Considine, who's with us here. She knows a little bit about Eagle Scouts as well and her family. But she has been a leader. She and I were in Leadership Westchester a year or two ago. And she has been a leader in so many ways in this issue of dealing with individuals with mental health. And so it's fitting and proper that we ask her to share her thoughts on a day like today. Marie?
Thank you, County Executive, and thank you, Commissioners and everyone for being here. It's really been my honor to be part of the Suicide Prevention Task Force. It's not something that's easy to say. It sounds funny to hear you say it's an honor to be on a task force about suicide, but it's something that we're trying to prevent and trying to help the families heal. So that's exactly what this park, the garden behind me, is all about. Reverend Trollinger's words were perfect, and I would like a copy of that redo of the Prayer of St. Francis, which is my favorite church song because it's all about being a peacemaker. And that's really what we're doing here too, is trying to create peace in people who are really troubled and who have gone through trauma. So this garden is for the families, the loved ones who have lost someone to suicide. Could also be for the people who maybe have attempted suicide and they need somewhere to go, to just sit and be with nature. It's such a beautiful place. We're all here talking and taking turns talking, but when nobody's talking, it's really peaceful here. You just hear the breeze and you see that there's shade, and the County Parks Department has done an amazing job. I'm so glad Commissioner thanked them all, because I know a few of them by name, but not everyone. So I just want to really thank them as well. I'm really excited that we will be putting the plaque that Commissioner O'Connor mentioned on that big pretty rock over there, which is right in the middle, because then people will know what this location is all about. And the kiosk that she mentioned that we'll be doing will also have some resources in there, so that when people come and they say, oh, what is this little area all about? Maybe they'll see the plaque, but maybe they need some resources. Maybe they need some information for themselves or someone that they know. So that little kiosk will not only be about the garden and about being a county park and why it's here, but it will also provide resources such as from NAMI, from MHA, from other organizations and partners, from WJCS. I know many of you are represented here today, and thank you. So stay tuned for that. And as Commissioner Orth mentioned, we are still doing fundraising. It comes through NAMI. It doesn't come to us. We don't keep any of the money. It comes directly for the park. As Commissioner Orth mentioned, Westchester County's Parks Foundation gave a generous contribution. NAMI Westchester did make a contribution, and many other individuals did. So we're still raising money because this is going to take maintenance, right? Because as Commissioner O'Connor mentioned, there was a big rain. Right now is beautiful, and we're hoping the best for Saturday, but you never know. So over the years, it will take maintenance. I need to give a special shout out myself to Brendan Haley, because I worked very closely with him on this project. As County Executive mentioned, he didn't mention I have 4 boys, but I have 4 boys, 3 of whom are Eagle Scouts. So it's really near and dear to my heart. And Brendan is from Eastchester, where I grew up, and the benches are from a 250-year-old Merwin oak that fell in Croton, which is where I now live. So it's kind of a personal connection to me, too. So like everything else, like we're talking about here, it's not only one person who's affected, it's the families. I know as an Eagle Scout family, it takes a family. Brendan doesn't drive. His dad was driving to get that wood and everything else. So thank you for that. Speaking of families, what's probably the most important thing for me to mention is what NAMI Westchester does. So NAMI Westchester is the local affiliate of the National Alliance on Mental Illness. So we provide all kinds of programs and services for people who live with a mental health diagnosis and for their families. So all programs are provided at no cost. We have educational programs and support programs and a helpline. So our program coordinator is here, Terry Brennan, right in the back, raising her hand. And you might hear her voice when you call our helpline to find out about some resources for yourself or for others, to find out about our 8-week free educational program that'll help you learn all about mental health diagnosis, what it means, how to support your loved one, how to communicate with the police, how to communicate with your loved one. And then we also have support groups. So I want you to, call, find out more on our website. Speaking of our website and about donations, the QR code that's on that sign, you can, take a picture of that on your phone. It'll go right to the Healing Garden page of our website. You can make a donation there or just learn more about it or share that link with other people who might be interested or might need to get the message. And last thing I'll mention is that we do have our walk this coming Saturday. So we're hoping for the most beautiful weather like we have right now. We can make a little reservation for Saturday morning, but it's at this park, and that's why it's here, is because we're creating this garden here. It'll be on the other side, and we're again working with the Parks Department, who's amazing, and that walk raises funds and awareness so that we can provide all the programs for free. So I just wanted you to know about that and to invite you. It doesn't cost anything to register. If you register to walk on our website, there's no minimum to raise, but we'd love for you to come because it's also about awareness. That's why it's out in the open in the community, and we will walk. The loop goes right by here. And at the starting line, we'll give everybody a butterfly, and then you'll put it in the garden as you pass by. So thank you to everyone for being here and for caring.
Thank you, Marie Considine. And my notes, I think, are with you right now. So, thank you. I want to recognize that we're joined by Annie Willis, who is the director. There she is. There's Annie, who's the director of special projects for our good friend, State Senator Andrea Stewart Cousins, who's the leader of the New York State Senate. And I know that Senator Cousins would be here. She and Assemblywoman Mary Jane Shimsky are in Albany right now, as always happens during the week. But please convey our great respect to the Senator and thank her for all of her support for the things that we do here and every day. Thank you, Annie. Next, Ellen Hendricks, who is a good friend of mine, we work together in our executive committee, is going to share some thoughts on a personal level. This is ultimately about how we handle grief. This past Sunday was Mother's Day. And for those of us of a certain age, when our mothers are gone, we try to capture that remembrance of what they were like during their life. We have that chance again with Father's Day coming up in a few more weeks. And in my case, my mother has passed away. She passed away, under normal circumstances, but that doesn't take away the pain of loss after all these years. And my sister sent me a photograph of my mother with me when I was a little baby in a baby carriage. Anybody who's on my Facebook page will see it there. And I had the sentimentality to go back to the very spot in Mount Vernon where that picture was taken and then take a selfie of myself at this age, 65 plus years later, because you still deal with grief, no matter what the sources are. We turn to our faith traditions to help us get through this. But in a setting like this, where a survivor family deals with the loss of someone that either was unexpected or untimely, before the normal amount of years that you would hope that a person would have, the grief is magnified. And that is why this garden has been created. Ellen Hendricks has to live with that grief. She will tell you her story, and it is indicative of other stories that could be told by some of the folks who are here today and by those folks who will be here in their own time to just sit and contemplate at the Healing Garden. Ellen Hendricks.
Thank you, County Executive. I'm so fortunate to live in this county. I'm so fortunate to have worked with Commissioners Orth and Commissioner O'Connor and the team who put the garden together. Thank you. To you, Brendan. The benches just evoke that same sense that this solemn occasion and this place of peace conveys to me. I'm trying hard not to cry, but I can cry here. I carry my brother with me. He's been here, he's been gone for many years, but he's here with me. I carry the memory of my young cousin, who was a Westchester resident, a Greenburgh resident. I'm fortunate to be part of Greenburgh, where this is. I visited this site many times since we decided that this is where we wanted to have the healing garden. And I thank my fellow committee members, some of whom have suffered great loss, others who care enough, who really care. And that makes such a difference to me. Just the love with which you created this spot, you chose this spot, means everything. It means that you understand that we need a place that we can take our private thoughts. We need a place that we can cry. We need a place where we can be alone or we can be with family. Thank you.
We're also joined today by Dawn Yancey Ellaby. She too is a survivor and a family member, and as there are as many stories as there are, those stories need to be heard and told. Dawn, if you'd join us, please. Thank you. Dawn Ellaby. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you so much. Good afternoon. I thought this was going to be a little easier than it is, but I'll get through it. Good afternoon, Commissioner, to our County Executive Latimer, Commissioner Orth, Commissioner O'Connor, our Reverend Daphne Swinton, my church member Pat White, in his absence, my pastor, Reverend Dr. Verlin D. Williams, and guests. I was asked to participate in this effort by Reverend Swinton because she knew that my family had experienced a profound loss. And I can say that my engagement with the committee and this effort has helped me to process the loss. This is just amazingly beautiful. And this, I believe, like this garden, this presence, the importance of this beautiful space transcends religious affiliation. It is open to one and all, whatever one's belief, or if one does not have a belief. It is my prayer that this healing garden will provide a sacred space for individuals to process their grief and loss in whichever way works and whichever way leads them to healing. Commissioner O'Connor said it right. There's serenity here. At the heart of this garden, it is serenity. So it is my hope the presence of this garden as a shared space will provide renewal and rejuvenation and a shared space that connects us all. Thank you and God bless. Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn. How many of our friends who are here live in the town of Greenburgh? Raise your hand if you live in the town of Greenburgh. And for those of you who live either in Greenburgh or elsewhere, we want you to spread the word about the Healing Garden. This is a location that's roughly in the middle of the county, but we want people in every corner of the county to know that it's here for them, that they can come here and they can find some place to think and to find solace in this moment. When I was a young boy, I broke my wrist, frankly, fooling around. I was 8 years old. I was running in the wintertime on some ice in a construction site near where I lived, and I slipped and I fell on my hand and I broke my wrist. And I came home, I was crying, of course, and my mother was very sympathetic and my father was sort of mad at me. that I would break my hand. And after a certain amount of time, they put ice on it, and I saw how it was swollen, and I am right-handed, and it was my right wrist that I broke. And I wound up in a hard cast. In those days, there were no soft casts, and I had this hard cast. All of my friends wrote on it, and I had to learn how to do things with my left hand. And in a certain amount of time, I want to say 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks, I don't really remember. When you're little, time is warped in terms of what we know it to be as an adult. But at some point in time, that hand healed. And I remember when the cast came off, it was itchy as all get out, and I couldn't stop scratching it. And I was happy that I could use my right hand again to button and to wash my hair and all those things. The injury that I had, as painful as it was, healed. And it was a visible wound. It had swollen, and you could see that it was a problem. And then in time, the swelling went down. I resumed use of my hand. There are some wounds that can't be seen. There's some wounds that don't give an external observation that a person can see. And those wounds don't heal in a set number of times. If they heal at all, they heal based on some inner clock that's beyond our ability and control. You know, I guess I haven't yet gotten to the point where I'm told I need either a knee or a hip job. I assume that's coming soon. And my friends who have had that are told you can't drive for so many weeks. But there's some wounds that may take a lifetime to heal. But you have to try to heal. You have to try to find a way to get to that point where you don't forget, but you go on. And you do that because that is our mission, to go on as long as we have breath. But also not to forget. To make sure that loved one, that person is still a part of your life. It's the things that they did during their life. And as much as you can remember of the joy that they gave you during their life, that you can hold on to that. That is part of the story of Dawn. That is part of the story of Ellen. That's the part of the story of anybody. I believe it's the white ribbons that designate if you're a survivor family. If it is, that you find a way to cry and to grieve, to remember, but to find as much healing as you can and go on. That is why this was created. That is why the Blitz crew did what they did. That is why the tree in Eastchester was brought here to become part of now a recycled new element of life. To give something to those of us that need it. An understanding that there are things, as I said at the outset, that are greater than the secular things we do. Now, in a few minutes, after we greet each other and we go about our day, we'll get in our cars and head off to where we are. At some point in time tonight, the night will fall and no one will be here. But the spirit of creating this facility will not end at that point. It will continue on, and it'll be here in the morning, and we hope, God willing, every morning thereafter, as a place to come to whenever you need to come here. Whenever you need to say, I need to sit and I need to think again. I need to cry again. I need to get in touch again with that. To show that that person that you loved is still alive in your heart, is still here. And maybe in a perfected way. In a way that perhaps you may not have had the experience of being with them now on this plane, but on another plane, they're healed. And therefore you can be healed. It's not the role of a government to touch your spirituality. We turn to our faith traditions to do that. But we're fools in government if we ignore the spirituality of life. And so we try to find a meeting. And that's what we've done here. We've tried to find a meeting place. The hard work of Neil and the team, Kathy's hard work and Peter's hard work have created a setting. Michael helped create the sense of vision that this could be. And now it's here. It's here for you. It's here for whoever needs it. And it's here long after I am not in this position, long after. We've done something that will last as long as you need it. As long as you need it. God bless you all. Have a wonderful day.